والحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين المصطفى أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وقرآنه الحميد وقوله الحق أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم تر إلى الذي حاج إبراهيم في ربه أن آتاه الله الملك إذ قال إبراهيم ربي الذي يحيي ويميت قال أنا أحيي وأميت قال إبراهيم فإن الله يأتي بالشمس من المشرق فأت بها من المغرب فبهت الذي كفر والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
This ayah number 258 from Surah Al-Baqarah describes to us a discussion that took place between a king that the Quran does not name. This king and Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. However, the ahadith suggest to us that it was Namrud, the tyrant, oppressive king during the time of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim salamullahi alayhi, when he started preaching to his community, to his people about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then he challenged his community, being a brave young man, and went ahead and destroyed the idols that they were worshipping. He left one of them. He kept one of them. When the community realized that Ibrahim has destroyed their idols, they decided to take revenge. The revenge was to punish him. How? They decided to burn Ibrahim alayhi salam. So they made up a fire, a huge fire, and they ignited the fire. It is said the fire was so severe, so harmful, that they could not get anywhere near the fire to put Ibrahim in it. Who's going to throw Ibrahim in the fire? So the fire became so hot. If you ever happen to stand next to a fire, you find the heat of the fire. Imagine a big fire, a huge fire. So people stand away from it because the heat comes at a distance. So they were at confusion. How are we going to throw Ibrahim into that fire? Then it is narrated and said Iblis, Satan, Shaitan, came to them in the form of a human being and suggested to them the invention of a caterpillar or a minjaniq. So they invented the catapult and they put Ibrahim in it and fired Ibrahim into the fire. or shot Ibrahim salamullahi alayhi into the fire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then saved Ibrahim قلنا يا نار كوني بردا وسلاما على إبراهيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the fire not to burn Ibrahim. This miracle resonated among the community. People thought that, you know what, okay, now really we can't challenge this man anymore. Apparently he is, or he does seem to be supported by the divine. At that stage, after seeing the miracle, then apparently this discussion took place. So after seeing the miracle, now that they realized that really they could not kill Ibrahim, they tried and they failed. So now they said, okay, let's try a different approach with Ibrahim. And what is the approach? The approach is to create a propaganda, a fallacy, a lie. Let's overtake the minds of people. So the Namrud, the king, the tyrant, oppressive king, calls Ibrahim over. And he holds kind of a debate or a discussion between himself and the Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam, in front of people. The whole idea there is to propagate a fallacy. The whole idea there is to kind of falsify the facts so that people can be persuaded not to follow the truth, the haqq, even though they had just witnessed it with their own eyes. Which suggests to us the effect of the environment that we live in. Sometimes in the environment that we live in, we see the truth. We see what's good. We see what is bad. However, the influence of the propaganda, the influence of marketing techniques, they persuade us to forget about what we just witnessed with our own eyes and to leave that path and to follow the fallacy. For example, when it comes to alcohol, in Canada alone, every day, 4 people die from drinking and driving. Every day. That's a statistic. So God forbid, just look around you right now and think, every day you would lose 4 people, God forbid. Within a few days, this whole masjid will be empty. So look at the reality of it. That's a significant statistic, and this is only due to drinking and driving. We're not talking about toxicity. We're not talking about the harmful effect to the liver. We're not talking about people getting intoxicated and then engaging in other crimes, domestic violence. No, none of it. We're just talking about one aspect of it, and that's drinking and driving. 4 people every single day. Although the statistics can be much higher if we incorporate those other aspects into it as well. So that is something people are observing. They realize this is harmful. The liver, and interestingly, a few months ago, one of the mu'mineen told me, he said, I went to visit my doctor. He's an old, a bit more senior youth, a senior youth, maybe in his mid-60s. That's what means, senior youth. Because all of you are youth, inshallah. We don't have any seniors here. Everyone is youth. In his mid-60s, he said, I went to the doctor after doing a physical checkup. He did a physical checkup. Then they referred me to a specialist to kind of look at the results of the blood work, the tests, and so on and so forth. He said, when I first came to meet the specialist, after greeting me, the first question he asked me, he said, are you a Muslim? I looked at him and said, yes. How did you know? He said, because the test results came back, your liver is very clean. It appears to me you don't drink. He said, true. I am a Muslim, I don't drink. He said, I can tell. He said, at your age, when I usually see the results of these tests, The liver usually has levels of toxicity. Toxicity means poison, toxic. So there's a level of toxicity that I can see at your age. However, in your case, clean, not a single thing. So I realized, and now you just confirmed it for me. So interestingly, here is a doctor, a professional, who himself attests. And a couple days ago, interestingly, I was watching in the news, just 2 days ago, 2-3 days ago, really, I was watching in the news about this individual who says that I have not drank a single cup of alcohol for the past 6 years. He said, the first 30 days, I stopped drinking. I felt so healthy. I lost so much weight to the point where people were looking at me and saying, are you working out? I told them, no, I'm not really working out, but I stopped alcohol. So now, interestingly, this person, why is he in the news? Because he initiated a campaign. Stop drinking for 30 days. He says, I'm not telling you to stop drinking forever because I know that's difficult for some people. But for 30 days, stop it. And see for yourself what impact it has on your life. And then you get to choose whether you want to continue with it or not. That's your choice. But try it for 30 days. And so interesting, you see all these facts from people who themselves, some of them are professionals, yet the influence of the media, the influence of the marketing techniques, sometimes make us forget about all this. We forget about the reality, the truth. It's so harmful. So we get indulged in this, and marketing indeed pays off. That's why people do research about marketing techniques. You know, these ads you see on the buses, the ads you see on the internet, the ads you see in the newspapers, etc., etc. This continuous exposure to a particular concept makes us believe that this concept is reality. So we start adopting it or trying to follow it. There's been research about this. Communication experts have written documents and papers about this matter. Continuous exposure through the media, marketing techniques and so on. Continuous exposure to a concept make us then believe in that concept as the reality, as the truth. Here, Namrud, this king, tyrant king, wanted to use that same technique. Continuously expose the people to a fallacy, and hence he can brainwash them. Imam Ali, Salamullahi alayhi, Amir al-Mu'mineen, says, أيها الناس إنما بدء وقوع الفتن أهواء تتبع وأحكام تبتدع يخالف فيها كتاب الله يتولى فيها رجال رجالا فلو أن الباطل خلص، يعني إجا صافي، حق باطل لو إجا صافي، فلو أن الباطل خلص لم يخفى على ذي حجر، ولو أن الحق خلص لم يكن اختلاف، ولكن يؤخذ من هذا ضغث ومن هذا ضغث فيمزجان معا فيجيئان فهنالك استحوذ الشيطان على أوليائه ونجى الذين سبقت لهم من الله الحسنى. He says, people, these fallacies, this corruption, the essence of corruption is desires that people want to achieve. They have desires, have certain goals, objectives. And to them, the end justifies the means. I don't care how I get my goal, as long as I get there. The end justifies the means. We have an objective. Those people, when they have an objective, a desire that they want to achieve, then what do? They start creating fallacies, أحكام تبتدع, fallacies. They start creating laws, tools that are all fallacies to brainwash the people. And then Imam Ali alayhi salam, interestingly, he says there is a test here. If falsehood is so clear that people would recognize what it is, and even if haqq, the truth, is so clear, the people will follow it. But things are sometimes mixed together. The message is mixed together. And hence, you need someone who's intelligent, someone who can see beyond the artificial facts and goes deeper into the real facts to recognize what is haqq and what is batil. That's why Imam Ali alayhi salam and Ahlul Bayt salamullahi alayhim continuously remind us, the mu'mineen, they say, don't be fooled by situations, circumstances, things that appear to be so good. You know, like they say in English, there is no such thing as a free lunch. So if you hear there's a free lunch, make sure you investigate what's behind that free lunch, what's going on there. Sometimes, you know how you have these sometimes people who, con artists, they call you, they say you want a trip, you know, to I don't know where. So the police sometimes release statements. They say if something sounds too good to be true, then it's most probably too good to be true. So avoid it. Avoid it. Don't be fooled by some of these statements that we see today. Fashion is one of the problems we have in today's world. The way that people dress. You turn on the internet, look at the fashion. People talking about entertainers' fashion. You look at the magazines, they talk about entertainers' fashion. You turn to the internet, there's fashion. Fashion, everywhere is fashion. This is fashion. This is the trend for fashion, and hence what happens is then you have the mu'mineen following the same trend because they get into these marketing techniques. They believe them that this is the truth. Even though Islam comes and says, Islam says we have Islamic standards for fashion. Islam is not against fashion. Islam is not against Calvin Klein and Gucci and Mucci and Gucci and whatever, Dolce Gabbana, Banana, whatever. No problem. Islam is not against these things. You want to be fashionable, by all means. However, there are standards. There are standards. There are criteria for which you set the fashion. If a mu'mina wears the abaya, for example, wears her hijab properly, if a mu'min wears the shirt properly, you know, I mentioned it maybe here once. I was at the masjid one day praying, in the masjid. I was praying. In front of me were some youth, some young men. Every time we go to ruku', I have to close my eyes. If you know what I mean. You know, the guys who are praying in front of me. So, and I'm thinking, what is this fashion here, you know, about this? What's so beautiful about this? Couldn't you wear a proper shirt coming to the masjid? Maybe proper pants coming to the masjid? So, but we get sucked into these fashion and have sometimes some youth, even older youth, you know, I'm not talking about teenagers, even older people sometimes. They tell their parents, you know, Dad, this is the fashion. This is what's fashionable these days. If I don't wear this, I will be awkward. This is where self-esteem comes in very important. This is where self-confidence comes in very important. This is where Imam Ali alayhi salam tells you, don't worry about being awkward, quote unquote. لا تستوحشوا طريق الحق لكثرة أو لقلة سالكيه. Don't feel awkward because you're doing what's right. Even though you're only alone in doing it. Don't feel awkward. If you're doing what's right, be proud. And say, you know what, I'm doing what's right. This is what my religion dictates. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud to follow this. So as an individual, we need to be proud of what Islam presents us. Fashion, Islam is not against fashion. But Islam says within the criteria, within the boundaries of the Sharia. Make sure you wear things that are decent, things that are loose, nothing cut so tight. The whole makeup issue, avoid it when you are in public places. Within these criteria, within these boundaries, no problem being fashionable. You set a statement of fashion. You don't let it to be dictated to you. And that's what Imam Ali alayhi salam says. When people have a propaganda, an agenda that they want to achieve. I was once at a doctor's office. You know, sometimes when you go to the doctor's office, they have magazines. There are sometimes, you know, different kinds of magazines. So I thought there was one magazine for teenagers. You know, I thought, let me see, what do they have in this magazine for teenagers? I picked it up. So I'm going through it. They have a picture of an actress. They say the bag this actress carries is from this store. The bangle she's wearing on her hand is from this store. The lipstick she's wearing is from that store. The skirt is from this store. The shoes from this store. Flip 2 pages later, another actress. Again, same thing. A few pages later, an actor. The jeans he's wearing from this store. The shoes from this brand. Not going through it. Is this really what they're teaching all these teens? Just about fashion, you know, buy from this, do this. But continuous exposure to this makes us believe this is reality. Because continuous exposure. You're continuously being exposed to this information. To the point where your subconscious starts accepting it as the truth, as the reality. So that's what is happening today. And they're making billions of dollars of this industry. They have a target, they have a goal, they want to make billions. That's why they start creating fallacies. This is good, this is freedom. Freedom. You should be free to do whatever you want. Don't let anything limit your freedom. Interestingly, there is a paper published back in 1998, by a professor of political science at the University of Oklahoma in the United States. His name is Dr. Alan Hertzk. The title of the paper is The Theory of Moral Ecology. Anyone who's interested, you can go back to it, to the paper. The Theory of Moral Ecology by Dr. Hertzk from the University of Oklahoma. He says, one of the biggest problems we have in today's society is the notion of absolute freedom. The concept of freedom. That you're free to do whatever you want. And he relates that, interestingly, at the society level, he relates it to the ecology, to the environment as well. He draws a relationship, interesting relationship. He says, just like in the environment, you have companies, for example, who don't care about the environment. They care about their own businesses. Whether they pollute the environment, whether they damage the waters, they don't really care. In Alberta, where I came from, they have the oil sands. Some professors, I met him actually, there's a professor from the University of Alberta, I met with him personally. He's written several papers about the pollution that these companies cause to the rivers in the area. And he's written paper in prestigious scientific paper in Nature. It's published in Nature. You know, among the prestigious scientific papers. He's published papers there where he shows evidence that there is contamination happening here. You're contaminating the drinking water. He told me himself, he said, I am not against the development of the oil sands, like some media tries to portray me as. They try to portray me as one of those people who was against the oil sands. He told me no. But all I'm saying is that do it responsibly. When you want to develop it, make sure you don't damage the environment. Do it responsibly. So he says, this Dr. Hersk, this is back in 1998, says just like there are companies who don't care about the environment, they only care about their own businesses, their own advantage, their own propaganda. Similarly, at the social level, there are industries who don't care about people's manners, the degradation of the society. All they care is about their industry. He says, similarly, just like we impose taxes on companies. Have you heard of the carbon tax? There's something called the carbon tax. Alberta has a carbon tax on companies that do oil sands. They say since you have a large carbon footprint, then you should pay taxes so that we can clean the environment. Dr. Hersk says just like you have taxes on those companies, you should have taxes on television, the media, for corrupting people, corrupting the society. This is back in 1998. This is before social media, before the internet was out, before YouTube, before Google, before a lot of these things, back in 1998. So you can see how some people, and these are professors at universities, these are not just ordinary individuals, these are scholars. And their writing does not stem from their religious faith. This is a scholarly article. They're writing about scholarly discussions, so they have evidence for what they say. Hence, we need to be a bit intellectual in what we follow. Imam Ali alayhi salam says those people who have an objective, they start creating fallacies and they start brainwashing people. The smart person has to realize what is right and what is wrong, distinguish between the two. Otherwise, he or she would be sucked into following whatever the fallacy is. They would just go with it without thinking. Have you guys heard of Juha? Juha, one day he was talking to the king. He was in the king's palace. He was talking to the king. This kind of a funny character, Juha. Mullah Nasruddin, they call him sometimes. So he was talking to the king. He asked the king for something. The king said, no, I'm not going to give it to you. He said, what? You're not going to give me? He said, no. He said, okay, wait then. Wait. So he goes. He goes out of the king's palace. Every person he sees on the street, he tells them, you know what? Today the king is having a free lunch. Go. There's a free lunch in the king's palace today. Everyone. So people, really? Free lunch? Let's go. So people start heading to the king's palace. Thousands of people are heading to the king's palace. All of us, he says, now let the king handle this. Now he's going to get thousands of people now coming. So Juha is standing there and laughing. He just made this fallacy, this propaganda. Then interestingly, after seeing so many people, thousands of people going to the king's palace, Juha stood there for a second. He said, wait a minute. All these thousands of people are going to the king's palace. Maybe there is a free lunch at the king's palace. Let me join them as well. I should go with them. So he created the lie and he believed his own lie. He got sucked into his own fallacy because of the environment. Everyone was going. So he said, maybe there is. He followed it as well. And that has some realistic notion. It's the continuous exposure to the fallacy. If one does not use his aql, his mind, his intellect, does not recognize the harmful effect of following this and the benefit of avoiding it, then one will get drawn into this. Similarly, here Namrud is creating a fallacy. So he gathered everyone. He told people, listen, Ibrahim, he said, what's the difference between your God and me? I'm a God. So I am the one whom you should believe in. Just like Fir'aun. Fir'aun said, أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. I am the Grand Lord. So now Namrud is telling Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim responded. He said, my Lord, يحيي ويميت, that he can revive and he can take life away. Now Ibrahim was referring to life and death. Namrud wanted to create a fallacy, play on these words. He says, absolutely, I can also give life and death. He says, bring me 2 prisoners, 2 people from the prison. They bring them. Namrud tells them, asks them, so how is life in the prison? They say, life, there's no life in prison. I feel dead in the prison. Ah, dead, okay. So he tells one of them, I'm going to revive you, I'm going to give you life, you're free. Go. The other one, he says, kill him. So they killed him. He turns to the public and says, see, I just gave life and I took life. People were fooled by this analogy. They accepted that analogy. Now some of you may wonder, how is that possible? Yes, indeed. When people want to go with the flow, it's easy for them to follow this analogy because this is easy. Then I can do whatever I want. Fir'aun, just a couple of nights ago I gave a story about Fir'aun. Fir'aun gathered his people again. This is after they saw the snake of Musa alayhi salam, the miracles of Musa, they saw the river turning into blood, they saw all these miracles of the Prophet Musa alayhi. After all that, now you think they would believe in Musa alayhi salam. They believe in him after all you've seen. He told them, people, come on, why don't you believe in this man? He's so cool, he has nothing. I control the river, I control the wealth, I control everything. So what happened? فَاسْتَخَفَّ قَوْمَهُ فَأَطَاعُوهُ. He fooled his people and they obeyed, they listened to him. They listened to him. You think after all this, who would listen to Fir'aun? What they did? These are not only stories, these are realities. They are stories that happen in this day and age. So then Ibrahim alayhi salam wanted to defy him because Ibrahim wanted to show us Haqq always prevails, the truth prevails. Don't be brainwashed by the fallacies. Today there is a big propaganda against Islam altogether. Let me tell you something. I just mentioned the alcohol industry. Do you know the sales of alcohol in Canada alone equate to approximately $15 billion. The sales of alcohol in Canada alone, $15 billion. Imagine the profits. Billions of dollars. And this is only in one country, in Canada. I'm not talking about other countries in the world. Just Canada. Now Islam comes and says alcohol is haram. You can't have it. Do you think these companies are going to... Is that good for business? Not quite. It's not really good for business, is it? So then, is it to their advantage that Islam prevails or not? No. That's one. Two, the gambling industry. Take a look today. You know, one of my friends, he invests in stocks, the stocks investments. He told me, he said, you know something? I said, what? He said, I wish it was allowed to invest in gambling stocks. He said, these stocks never lose. Never lose. You invest in gambling, you guarantee you're going to make money, profit. It's a $1 trillion industry worldwide, gambling. $1 trillion industry. You know what $1 trillion is? It's more than $1 billion. Islam comes, what does it say about gambling? Haram. So this $1 trillion business doesn't like that. Islam is not very good. So alcohol, no. Gambling, no. anyone here studies economics in some university? Do we have any people who study economics? Accounting, financial? No? When you go to universities and study today, any university in the world, the majority of them talk about the interest system. There is no other system. They don't give you an alternative system. The only system that is taught is the interest system. I remember in 2008, when the financial crisis happened, there was an interview. I was called for a television interview, TV interview, where I was told by the host of the show, he said, I heard in Islam there is no interest. He said, that sounds like a really good religion. I would like to follow a religion that has no interest. But he said, how does it work? How can you have a banking system with no interest? And so I very, very briefly explained to him the concept of mudaraba, which is what we have in Islam, where partnership. You want to borrow money from me? No problem. But it will be a joint venture. This is what today they call venture capitalists. There are companies who will study your company, who will study your invention. They come, but they will study it thoroughly. Make sure, they study all aspects of your business. If you have a good business argument, they say, you know what, we will fund you. We'll give you money so that your business becomes successful. In return, we split the profits, whatever terms that you people decide on, the companies decide on. What they will try to do is they will try to make you successful. Why? What's going to happen if you lose money? They're losing their own money. They don't want that. So they will, first of all, do their homework, do their research. Second, they will try to help you to the best of their ability so that you succeed. This is called mudaraba. The interest system, however, says, here is $100,000. I don't care what happens to your business. You lose, you make a profit. I don't care. You have to pay me back my $100,000 plus the interest that we decided on, whatever the interest terms are. That's my business. And so what happens when you can't pay the mortgage? What happens when you can't pay the bills? Your house is taken away from you and go on the street. I don't care. The bank says, I don't care. Sorry. And that's what we saw happening in 2008, right? How many people lost their homes? I remember listening to the news 1 month. In 1 month. This is 2010, I think, 2009, around that time. They said in 1 month, in the US, 1 million homes were foreclosed. 1 million homes were taken away. So what happened to the families living in these 1 million homes? Where did they go? God knows. In some shelter, in some tent, God knows. This is the interest system. We saw the collapse of the interest system, or the faults of the interest system in 2008. However, this is what the world is living on today. Interest. Islam comes and says interest is haram. This is a $1 trillion industry. What do you mean it's haram? What are you talking about? So you think these people will be happy with Islam? And these are only 3 examples. I can go on and on and on. Alcohol? No. That's bad for business. Gambling? Haram. That's bad for business. Interest is haram. Bad. Who is running the world today? Which companies are running the world today? These companies are running the world today. The world today is run by financial corporations, not by governments. Financial corporations run the world today. They're the ones who pay. So they dictate which way the government goes, which way policies go. If that's what's happening, you think it is in their interest that Islam prevails? Of course not. Of course not. So then, what's best is to create a fallacy. Let's create a fallacy. That Islam is terrorism. Islam is against fashion. Islam is against freedom. Islam is this and so on and so forth. That's what we see in the world today. Now you see what is happening in the world today? Why are we facing? In addition are guilt-free. Unfortunately, a lot of poverty. Some Muslims have interest themselves, so they join hands with these people. Some Muslims are ignorant, they don't understand what is haqq, what is batil, so those people take advantage of them, and so on and so forth. So I'm not saying that Muslims are not guilty, they are also guilty as well. Some Muslims are. But you see, this is where it's going on. So my brothers, my sisters, the reason I'm saying this is, don't be sucked into the fallacies that you see in the world today. Whatever you hear about Islam in the world today has reasons. Because this world today is run by corporations whom, if you were to apply the laws of Islam, these corporations would go out of business. $1 trillion industries would go out of business. That's not good. It's not going to happen. Or at least it will happen, but they won't. To the best of their ability, they will not let it happen. To the best of their ability. But Ibrahim says, haqq will prevail. The truth will prevail. So Ibrahim told this king, when he saw that this king is trying to manipulate people's minds, fool them, that I make life, I give life and I take life by freeing a prisoner and killing another one. So then Ibrahim came back with a different argument. He changed it. Ibrahim did not continue with the argument. He did not go and say, I'm not talking about this life and death. You're manipulating my words. This was not the time for it. Ibrahim studied the situation. This is not the time to argue. So he used a different argument. He said, okay, so if you are the God that I should be worshipping, you're the one who can give life and take life away. The God that I worship also brings the sun from where? Makes the sun rise from where? Where does the sun rise from? Where? East or west? You sure? Good, alhamdulillah, good. It rises from the east and sets where? West? Good, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. So it's where directions. Qibla in North America is which direction? North America, if you want to pray, which direction is Qibla? Well, I know it's this way, yeah, that's smart. Which direction? I'm asking the direction. Northeast, northeast. So if you're ever in doubt, you're on a trip or someplace, you don't know what Qibla is, just ask anybody, which direction is north? Where is north? And if they tell you north is this way, for example, then you take the northeast, then you can pray. So that's easy. So the sun rises from where? Sun rises from east. And the sun sets from west. So Ibrahim said to him, if you are really the God whom I follow, I would like you to reverse this. Make the sun rise from the west and set in the east. فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ. That's when he had no argument anymore. He couldn't say anything any further. And that's where the truth prevails. Haqq prevails. And that's what Quran is trying to teach us. We may be living at times of difficulty. Yes. It may be difficult to set your statement. Ibrahim was alone. He did not really have a big following at that time. But he stood on the path of the truth. Fashion, I will set my fashion, my statement of fashion, according to the laws of Islam. My religion, my salat, I will follow that, according to the laws of my religion, the Islam. I will be proud of following my religion. My friends want to go to a party, I will say, I'm sorry. That kind of party I cannot join. I'm sorry. Even if they think that I'm a loner. Why are you alone? Why are you like this? Fine. Call me a loner. I don't really care. But I know what I'm doing is right. If you have your self-confidence, if you have your belief in yourself, then nothing can shake you. Nothing can move you. And that's what we need to develop. When you are doing what is right, when you are, for example, if your parents tell you do this way, and you know this is what should be done, listen to them. Even if your friends make fun of you, you let them make fun. On the day of judgment, you will know who was right and who wasn't right. If the religion dictates something, do whatever the religion dictates. Your friend wants to go drinking, they want to go have a party, you're not with them, don't feel alone. Don't feel that I'm being left out. If your friends dress in a certain fashion, in a certain way, you dress differently, but knowing that this is the dress of the Sharia, this is what Islam wants of me, let them say whatever they want. I will be strong. I will have my confidence. If you feel weak, come and speak to somebody. Speak to your parents. If you don't feel comfortable with your parents, speak to someone who is trustworthy. Trustworthy. A mu'min or a mu'minah. Not anybody. Sometimes we perceive a friend. I say, I have a friend, I can talk to them. Is this friend really a friend? You know, Musa, عليه السلام, speaking of Musa and Fir'aun, he came to Fir'aun. He said, Fir'aun, I have a proposal for you. What? If you believe in me and in Allah, believe in Allah and you believe in me, I guarantee you, I give you a guarantee that you will keep your kingdom, you'll remain as a king. Allah has given me this news, this offer from Allah. You believe in Allah, you will remain as a king. Nothing of your wealth will decrease, and in the Akhirah you'll go to Jannah. How about this offer? Fir'aun looked at this and said, no, that's quite a tempting offer. So I stay as a king, my wealth will remain the same, my kingdom, my lifestyle stays the same. All I do is I believe in Allah, and then in the hereafter, if there is a hereafter, I go to Jannah. Win-win situation. He tells Musa, you know, let me think about this. Give me 1 night to think about this. He says, okay, take your time. Fir'aun goes and talks to his friend Haman. Haman was the minister of Fir'aun, his friend. Fir'aun thought that Haman was his friend, his advisor. He thought that he's a friend. He came to Haman and he said, Haman, what do you think of this offer? You know, Musa's offer is quite tempting. You know, we get to stay as kings. Everything stays the same. Nothing changes. And he says there is another world. We go to paradise. We win. What do you think, ya Haman? What did Haman tell him? His friend. He said, Fir'aun, what are you talking about? Don't make Musa fool you. He's trying to fool you. How? What do you mean fool me? Right now, people are doing sujood, prostrating to you, ya Fir'aun. Musa wants to humiliate you. He wants to show the people that you are doing sujood to his Lord. He wants to humiliate you. Don't you get it? He said, oh my gosh, you know, I never thought about it that way. You're right, yeah, that's right. I never thought about it that way. He said, yeah, he's trying to fool you. Don't accept this offer. And Fir'aun rejected the offer. What happened? What happened? Fir'aun lost in dunya and lost in akhirah. Because he listened to his friend. He may appear as a friend, but the advice he gives you can kill you. Kill you, maybe not physically kill you, maybe also physically kill you, but if not physically, spiritually can kill you. So always be smart to whom you talk to. Talk to your parents, talk to someone who is trustworthy, a mu'min, a mu'minah, someone who's God-fearing, one of the ulama, scholars. Speak to those people for guidance. So my brothers and my sisters, just to wrap things up, the Quran is trying to give us an example here of a situation where some people who have objectives. In this case, Namrud, his objective was to deviate people. So what he wanted to do, create fallacies, create propaganda, lies. When people are continuously exposed to these lies, they start believing them. And that's what happened in the time of Namrud, and the time of Fir'aun, and in our day and age. However, we need to always realize what is the truth and what is the falsehood. Islam gives us what is haqq and what is batil. Ahlul Bayt tell us what is haqq and what is batil. So if we go with Ahlul Bayt, we're safe. Even though we may seem to be quote-unquote awkward, quote-unquote alone, quote-unquote different. But that is the way that Allah loves it. So we may be different for a little while, but you will be happy in dunya and in akhirah. You may have to face a little bit of a struggle. How? By developing self-esteem, self-confidence, by being strong, having strong opinions about your religion, and confidence that this is the truth. Doing so will help you. You need help, seek for advice from your parents and from trustworthy individuals, mu'mineen, believers, good people. Not necessarily your friends, who may appear to be as friends, but God forbid they may push you to do something which is harmful. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show us the haqq. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan fanattabi'ah wal-batil batilan fanajtanibah. Irfa'u aydiyakum bid-du'a. كثير من المؤمنين الذين أوصونا بالدعاء. Many people have requested us to pray for them. We also have a lot of needs, hajat. Some mu'mineen are ill, sick in the hospitals, requesting our du'as. Some mu'mineen are in the prisons, unjustly, unfairly. Some mu'mineen are being persecuted. They need our du'as as well. Inshallah, with the barakah of this majlis and your du'as, mu'mineen and mu'minat, all these hajat will be accepted and fulfilled. So everyone together. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم 10 مرات جميعا يا الله 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 يا الله. إلهي بفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها اكشف عنا السوء يا الله. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا كفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار مع محمد وآله الأطهار يا الله. اللهم اقض حوائج المؤمنين والمؤمنات. إلهي بأم البنين اقض حوائج المؤمنين والمؤمنات. شافي وعافي جميع مرضى المؤمنين والمؤمنات، على الخصوص من أوصلنا بالدعاء منهم. اللهم اقض حوائجهم، شاف مرضاهم، احفظهم في أوطانهم وديارهم بحفظك ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. إلهي بالحسين الشهيد اجعلنا وذريتنا إلى يوم الدين من شيعة الحسين المتقين يا الله، ومن خدمة الحسين المخلصين يا الله. اللهم رب اغفر لي ولوالدي وارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. اجزهما بالإحسان إحسانا وبالسيئات غفرانا. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. اللهم وفقنا لما يرضيك، جنبنا معاصيك، اجعل عواقب الفرج، واجعلنا من شيعته وأنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا هو دليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك وتمتعه فيها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أرنا الطلعة الرشيدة والغرة الحميدة واكحل أنظارنا بنظرة منا إليك. اللهم نقسم عليك بالزهراء فاطمة إلا ما رزقتنا شفاعة الزهراء في الدنيا وفي القبر وفي الآخرة يا الله يا الله يا الله، لقضاء الحوائج ولشفاء المرضى ولكشف هذه الغمة عن هذه الأمة ولتعجيل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان، وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات لا سيما أرواح أموات الجالسين والحاضرين والمؤمنين والمؤسسين والعلماء لا سيما إلى روح المرحوم الشهيد النبر، وإلى روح الوالد رحمه الله. رحم الله من يقرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.